Good morning, y'all. This is Park with Elmcrest Farm. We have been doing growing shiitake mushrooms out of oak logs for about 5 years. It is one of the most profitable things you can do. There's very low initial investment. Most of the work is just in getting your logs started. Actually fruiting and collecting mushrooms is not too bad. And probably my favorite thing about it is that it doesn't take up a whole lot of space, especially because you can go vertically with it if you need to. So winter and spring or early spring are really the best times to inoculate your logs. It's July right now, so we're just doing some as a demo to show you guys how to do it. So we've got everything set up here. The first thing you really need to do is to get your wood, and the best for shiitake are usually white oak, or any other kind of oak will work too. You can also use other hardwoods, but oak is generally the best. So you'll want to cut a fresh, healthy tree, and that just ensures that there's no other bugs or any other kind of fungi already in it. You'll want to let it sit for about 2 or 3 weeks and just let the natural fungicides die in the wood, and then cut your logs into anywhere between 3 and 4 foot sections, and somewhere with like a 3 to 8 inch diameter. So this one's 3 or 4 inches in diameter here. I like to cut them a little shorter, 2.5, 3 feet, and it's just easier to manage. Most operations you're going to have to pick these things up and move them from time to time. So I like to have them just in a little bit of a smaller size and more manageable weight. So we have our log here. For our drilling tool, modified angle grinder. You can get these at hardware stores, feed stores, places like that. You have to get a special adapter and a special bit. So you can order these generally from the places where you get your mushroom spawn. We got this one here. It comes from Field and Forest Products. There's some other well-known places, Mushroom Mountain, and I believe even locally in West Virginia, Hernshaw Farms is also starting to sell some spawn. So you may reach out to them for that. But you can find it online. I also prefer the sawdust spawn. So this is our spawn here. There's some different ways you can do this. You can get little inoculated wooden plugs. I like the sawdust better. I think it's a little quicker, one, to inoculate your logs, but also quicker for the spawn to run and quicker to get you into production for growing your mushrooms. So the first step we're going to do is drill our holes in our log, and we'll use our angle grinder for that. You want to drill about 3 or 4 inches apart, and then alternate on your next row so that you can create a diamond pattern on the log. Okay, so we just drilled a couple of holes for you guys to see. What you would do, you would continue this pattern throughout the whole log, until it's completely covered with these holes. Next step, we use a thumb style inoculator. There's a lot of different tools, different ways you can do this, as I mentioned, but this is pretty simple, and just based on the amount of money we wanted to spend, this is a cheaper tool and a cheaper method, but it works just fine for us. So you jab your inoculator down into the sawdust, and it fills up this little chamber, and then you're just basically going to inject this little pellet into the hole that you just drilled. And what that does is it introduces the mycelium to the wood. The mycelium is going to eat its way through the wood and colonize the log, and then once it's fully colonized, that's when you're going to be able to fruit mushrooms. So first we're going to inoculate here. We just jab into the sawdust, find our hole that we drilled, and punch it in. And you can drill logs more heavily, or maybe make your holes a little closer than what we did. You're going to use more spawn, but it'll also colonize more quickly, and you'll have bigger flushes. Just your log may not last quite as long. So we filled these holes, and as I mentioned, you would do this, all over the log. The next step, what we do, we have just an old crock pot. We use melted cheese wax or paraffin wax. You can also use soy wax, beeswax. We don't have this on, but what we would do is we would dip into the melted wax with just a cheap paintbrush, something like that, and then you just are going to paint over the holes, the inoculation sites where you just injected your mycelium. Some people dip the ends and or paint the ends with the wax. And the idea behind it, and why you're sealing this, is as I mentioned, you want to keep bugs and other fungi out, and you want to keep moisture in. And that is also why we don't wait too long after we cut the log to inoculate, is because we want to preserve that moisture and all the sugars that are in the log, because that's what the mushrooms are going to feed on and grow off of. So after inoculation, you basically just have your incubation period. You want to take them to a shady, wet area, just under the trees, or if you're in a more residential area, maybe just the shady side of your garage or shady side of your house, under the deck would be fine. And it takes 6 or 8 months for the logs to fully incubate and for the mycelium to fully colonize the wood. You'll notice some changes in the ends of the logs. They'll start to turn colors. This one's not really as pronounced. Let's check this one down here. And you'll start to see it'll turn white with the mycelium, and then eventually it'll turn black. And that's your indicator that they're ready to produce. You also might just see a couple random mushrooms just start to pop out with the right kind of weather. You can force these things to fruit, and that's one of the real benefits with growing mushrooms, is you can control the flushes. It's not like a tomato plant that it's just hits and hits and hits, and if you're out of town, you're out of luck. These take about a week, give or take a few days, from the time that you soak them to when they're ready to harvest, as you see here. So the fruiting process, you will take your logs once they're fully colonized, and you soak them for 12 to 24 hours in cool, ideally non-chlorinated water. You can use city water, and it works just fine. But if you have maybe like a rain barrel that you fill up, or people could use a kiddie pool. If you have like a clean source of a creek or pond that's clean, you can soak them in there. So just 12 to 24 hours, and that triggers the flush of the mushrooms. So once you soak them, you get them out of your water, and we just stand them up here on a fence. As I mentioned, you could use your garage, your house, barn, and that just kind of gets them into position so that they fruit nicely. And we harvested yesterday and just left this one log here. So once at this point, these are completely ready to harvest. They'll start out in more of a concave shape, and then as they mature, they're gonna open up. So once the veil is no longer attached to the stem, and they start to open up, that's when they're ready to pick. So we just come through here with a knife, and we'll just cut the stem off and store them, at least initially in a box or in a paper bag, some kind of material that they can really breathe through, and of course put them in the refrigerator, and they'll stay good for easily for 3 weeks. So you get a lot of shelf life out of these things. In conclusion, this is one of our favorite crops to grow. I think it's one of the easiest and most profitable products that you can produce. You pretty much just get them, the laborers, and really getting them set up, and then you just put them in the right place and more or less let nature do its thing. So it's one of those things that's it's kind of hard to screw up. So it's great for school garden projects with students, perfect for a homesteader, or perfect for someone who's looking to make a little extra money.